Welcome to the Leading Generations podcast from Antioch Bible Baptist Church in Gladstone, Missouri. Each week, Pastor Steve Doss shares an encouraging word on faith, family, or culture as we seek to live out our mission of leading generations to make disciples of Jesus Christ everywhere.
Welcome to the Leading Generations podcast. It's so good to see you today. Thank you for joining us on our weekly podcast here at Antioch as we seek to live out our mission of leading generations to make disciples of Jesus Christ everywhere. I hope this podcast has been helpful to you this year as we're getting closer to the end of the year. I hope it's been an encouragement to you. Thank you for your feedback on it, your engagement with it. It's really encouraged us to continue it, to make sure it's happening each week. So thank you for being a part of our podcast family. Well, it's the fourth Wednesday of the month, and we've been working through interviewing our pastors. And so if you've been following along, we started with Pastor Bob at the first of the year, did a two-part series with him, and then Pastor Todd, Pastor Clint, Pastor Tim, and finally we went with Pastor Jared. So we've worked through all of our pastors. But now, to end this year, we're going to interview what I think will be the best guest that we've had this year on the podcast. Obviously, it's sort of weird to have the best guest now in the first year of the podcast because it's going to peak and it'll probably just go down from here. But seriously, I am excited about who we have with us today to interview. We get the opportunity to interview my wife, who is also on our staff as our women's ministry director. So Ruth, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's so good to have you on the podcast. Excited about getting to interview you today. So people get a little peek into our life together, but excited to have you on here to interview you. So we usually like to start the podcast by doing some Q&A. So have you watched any of the episodes on the
That is not a fair question.
podcast?
Yes,
Okay.
I have watched.
Okay. So you
not
know
all of them, but a good portion of them.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you've engaged in the Leading Generations podcast. But we like to start with just a couple of sort of quick hit questions that get our talking going, even though we've been up this morning since 4:30 talking. So, so we were already doing this a little bit together. But coffee or tea? Coffee. Why?
But I like tea.
Why?
I don't know. I think probably all the stuff you get to put in it. But I do like coffee first thing in the morning. And Steve is so kind to always make sure it's ready first thing in the morning. So that's so sweet. But yeah, coffee.
Okay. If we're going to go on a family vacation and you're choosing where we're going, are we going to the beach or are we going to the mountains?
Both. I probably prefer the beach and then the mountains. We've always loved the mountains as a family. So both.
So as a family, we're going to go to the mountains.
Yes.
If it's just me and you,
probably beach.
Probably beach, yeah. That's why I would say I think you enjoy the beach more than the mountains. You like the mountains because we
hike a lot
hike
and it's beautiful.
and
They're both beautiful in different ways. So I think,
Right.
lots of fun.
KU Jayhawks or Missouri Tigers?
You've discipled
Answer
me
wisely.
well. The Jayhawks, but actually that goes way back to high school.
Yeah.
We lived in Topeka, Kansas, and Lawrence is just, real close there. And so as a teenager, we spent a lot of time on the KU campus doing fundraisers for our youth group. And so I think, I am a KU Jayhawk fan before I married you, which
That's right.
is good.
Yeah,
it was a
good.
good prerequisite already checked
that
off.
was one of the things on my wish list for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's back to what would we say? Seat back cushion chairs, $5.
They were $2.
$2, yeah.
We rented them out for football games and raised money for our youth group. So it provided scholarships for youth camp and all of our activities. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'd sell them, just so if you're wondering how that worked, we'd sell seat back cushion chairs at the KU football game. And I know some of you are laughing because you're like thinking, football. Like, did anybody come? How many chairs did you sell? We would sell a lot of chairs, and then we'd get to watch like the second half of the game, and then after the game, we'd pick up the chairs and put them back underneath the stadium and stuff. So it was pretty.
Yeah,
those were fun times. Last question that I would have for you. I had it. Now I've lost the last question that I was gonna ask. There was another question that I had for you that I thought would be a fun one, but I've lost it. So we'll move
I'll
on
be ready.
with yeah. If it comes to me in the middle, we'll just we'll go back to it. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast. Excited. First woman that's been on our podcast.
I know.
as
What an
well.
honor.
So yeah. This is
what an honor.
We're really peaking now, so it's going to go downhill from
Not
here.
true.
But I wanted to tell a little bit of your story. So where you were born and raised, and a little bit about your family.
Okay. My beginnings were in Springfield, Missouri. My parents were both professors at Baptist Bible College. They worked in the missions department there. They had just come back from Iran, being missionaries there for 13 years, and then came to be professors at BBC. So I was raised in a Christian home, the youngest of 6 kids, and we loved a big family. It was a lot of fun, lots of laughter around the table. We really enjoyed laughing together, so a sweet, big family. 3 boys and 3 girls, so the neighbors called us the Bible Bunch as opposed to Brady Bunch. It was very much in that era. So grew up there till I was 11 years old, and then moved to Topeka, Kansas, where I got to meet you, and my dad took a pastorate there.
Yeah. So how old is your oldest? You're the youngest of 6 kids, so do you know how old your oldest brother is? What's the span there?
There's a 15-year span.
Okay.
So both of my older brothers left home for college when I was 3 years old. So there's, I got to know them more as an adult than I did as a kid probably. And a bunch in between that. So 15 years for all 6 of us.
Yeah. So give us the breakdown, of how, it's.
Don't ask me to give you their ages.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like Dave's the oldest, and then
Dave is the oldest. He's a missionary in Peru. Dan is the next oldest, and he is a worship pastor in Texas. And then my sister Michelle would be the next, and she was kind of my second mom, so she helped to raise us younger kids. She works with her husband in Springfield, Missouri. He is at the Baptist Bible Fellowship International Missions Office. And then John is the next one. So we have an older family and then a younger family. John's the next one. He's a missionary in Rome, Italy. And then Becky Day, who also goes to church here at Antioch, is the sister. She's 3 years older than me. I like to make sure everyone knows that she's my older sister. So, but yeah, big family.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved growing up. They all love Jesus, which is really such a sweet grace to our family, that they're all walking with the Lord and serving him in his church. It's just really
that's a pretty amazing story. Speaks a lot of your mom and dad and their love for the Lord, and how that translated down to you kids as well, and your love for the Lord and for the church. So, so tell us about when you came to Christ then. So you grew up in a Christian home, but obviously you had to have a moment where you made the decision to follow the Lord and received Christ, born again, salvation, all those things. So when did that happen for you?
For sure. When I was about 5.5 years old, we were going to Parkrest Baptist Church. And I remember just hearing something in church or something in Awana that made me think that if I did not accept Jesus as my Savior, that I would spend an eternity apart from him in a place called hell. And so I was scared for that. For sure, I did not want that. But I also knew that when I accepted Jesus, that he could come into my life and my heart and just change everything and make it all new. And even at 5.5, I understood that. And the special thing to me about that is that the gospel is simple enough for a 5-year-old to understand. And I'm so, so grateful that the Lord didn't make it complicated, and that I could understand at 5 my need for a Savior. I remember praying, and there was blue carpet on the altar, And my mom got to lead me to the Lord. And I remember praying and just feeling an incredible weight lifted off my little heart, and how that was such a vivid memory to me. And then I followed that with baptism a little bit later, and just following the Lord in obedience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that about your story of coming to Christ, that it was at like 5.5, right? And a few years ago, we were at the same spot where you got saved at, and took a picture by it at one of the nieces or nephews' weddings. I can't remember which one it was, but I just think it speaks to our church family who works in our kids ministry of the value of sharing the gospel, and that a kid can come to Christ at
That's
5.5 years old and know and remember it years later, right? Like they can, because, my story obviously is a bit different, whereas I made a lot of professions of faith, but not till I was like 12, 13, did it really click in my mind. And I can go back to that moment and remember in 3501 Mountain View Drive when that happened. And so I just when I think about your salvation story, just encouraging our church family, like our kids ministry matters huge, because there's Ruth Doss's, Ruth Lyle's in our kids ministry, that they're going to put their faith and trust in Christ, and it's going to radically change the trajectory of their lives, and they're going to remember it. They're going to remember the weight being lifted off their little heart, as you said. So I think your testimony is just an encouragement to our church family in that way.
For sure.
So you come to Christ, growing up in a Christian home. You moved to Topeka, Kansas at 11. How does God continue to work in your heart that leads you to ultimately coming to surrender to be in ministry? So I think, again, sometimes when they think of you and I, it's like, well, Steve sort of dragged Ruth into ministry, and you're doing this because you're just following me. I think, again, what I love about your story is this is much a call for you to be in ministry as it is for me to be in ministry. And so I wanted you to share a little bit about your call into ministry, how you felt the Lord leading you in that direction, and then how our stories sort of match up there.
Sure. I think one unique thing about my life was that my parents were always in ministry. So I was always a missionary kid or a pastor's kid, and had the opportunity to be around my parents who are fully surrendered to the Lord, no matter what he asks them to do. And they're in their 80s now, still serving the Lord in missions. And they just got back from a trip this morning. So I was exposed to surrendering your life from a really young age. And my mom, I think, is probably the most impactful person to me in living a life of complete surrender. And she always said, the Lord can do so much more with your life than you can. So give it to him so that he can do it. So when we were at camp one year, we were 13. I was 13. You were 14, I believe.
Yes, I am older than you.
Yes, 1 year. But
you seem to like to point out that
just when it comes to sisters, I think. But I remember that, and your story is the same, so people might have heard this before, but we were at a camp where the speaker's focus was on being a martyr for Jesus. And throughout history, all the people who had been martyred for Jesus. And it was convicting that those people had given their life, the ultimate sacrifice for service to the Lord. And so I thought, I was just like at 13, just, you're trying to pray about what you're supposed to do with your life and figuring out what your future looks like. And I thought, I would love nothing more than to give my life to Jesus, to do whatever he wanted. And I really felt like at that time it was full-time ministry. So whatever that looked like. Sure. I didn't know what that looked like, if it was missions or church ministry or what it was going to be, or being a mom, which is also a ministry of discipleship daily. So I didn't know what it was going to be, but I did surrender my life on a Thursday night at camp just to do whatever God wanted to do with it. I'd be fully on board with. And so that was kind of where it started. I went to Bible college. after high school.
What'd you get your degree in?
I got my degree in cross-cultural studies or missions and a minor in business.
Yeah.
So kind of thinking that maybe God would use that where we could be missionaries and I could start a business overseas or something like that.
Sure.
But it's really neat to see how God has allowed that business degree to help me out with just life and different jobs that I've had. And now in church ministry, how much you use those business skills in church ministry are, very helpful. But went to school and graduated from Bible college single, which is like a miracle, I think. I don't think that happens very often.
That's funny.
We had dated on and off through Bible college. And a year after we graduated, we got married. Yeah. And I knew that our life would be in ministry because your heart is also church ministry or anything for the Lord. And so when Pastor Bob called you, I remember it being like one of the most exciting phone calls you've ever gotten to come to Antioch to try out to be in their ministry. So yeah that's what led us here for sure.
Yeah. So ministry's been an interesting journey for you because again, you graduated from Bible college and you were working at a church at the time too. You were a receptionist at High Street in Springfield and doing a lot there. And, but then we obviously got married and came to Antioch a couple years later. So your journey hasn't been straight into quote unquote full-time ministry.
Right.
Like it's been a journey, and you've been our women's director now for coming up on 5 years. So obviously we've been together a little bit longer than that. And so how did that go for you? Like again, having that sort of call to ministry, that not sort of, but a call to ministry, and then knowing, we start having kids, and you're in ministry, but it's looking different than like full-time ministry. How did you work through that all as now you've been in the women's ministry director, but going back to our early years, how'd you process all that?
Yeah. It was at times, honestly, a little frustrating because there were times when I felt like, Lord, I surrendered my life to you. And I really thought that would mean you'd get to use me in a different way. But I remember when my kids were little and I would try to be involved as much as I could in youth ministry, which we did together for 8 years. And I loved youth ministry. I loved teenagers and just the honesty and the fun and the ministry that is. That's a really fun ministry, and getting to pour into younger girls and kind of mentor them. And I remember thinking though at one point, like, I wish I could do more. I just can't because I'm a mom of 4 small kids. Yeah. And we didn't really talk about our family, but
we'll come back to that.
But I remember just being in that baby season and feeling frustrated because the Lord wasn't using me in a full-time capacity. And I'd gone to Bible college and I thought that that's what it would be. And I remember my super wise sister-in-law, Tanya Lyles, said, Ruth, the most important thing that you're doing right now is discipling 4 people at your house every day, 24/7. And it really kind of changed my perspective on mothering and being a mom to these kids. Their view of God came from me first because I was with them so much, obviously from you too. I'm not discounting your role.
No,
but how important that is, that time with them. I had the privilege to stay home with our kids, and what a great joy that was in my life. Yeah. And to get to pour into them who Jesus is and the difference he makes, and even learn and grow with them, and learning how to turn from sin myself and then teaching them to do the same through memorizing scripture together and just spending time loving Jesus together. I think that is something that as a culture, we for sure don't give enough value to. And I think serving your family as a mom is full-time ministry. And so that was a season of my life that I wasn't able to pour into the church as much as I wanted to, or in a full-time capacity, but I was in full-time ministry. Yeah. And I think that moms need to remember that. It really does help some days when you're really, you've changed your 80th diaper, or you've said no 4,000 times and you just need a nap and some encouragement, just remember, like, you are doing really good work.
Yes.
And
it's valuable.
It's so valuable. So my kids now are getting older, and as they get older, I have more time and more freedom to be in ministry a little bit more, which is exciting and new, honestly. So, 20 years after you graduate from Bible college, to finally get to start using the things that you learned in a full-time capacity has been really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important what you did in those early years of prioritizing our family over ministry, right? Although there was frustrations there, I appreciate that you saw the value in being home with our kids, investing in their lives, laying a good foundation. That, I think, in many ways, we're bearing fruit because you did that, and I think those early years in ministry with small kids, you doing the most that you could do as far as at the church, I think those were productive years too in ministry, because I think about young women that are in our church who were in your group, who you poured in their life. You went to camp with them. You were there on Sundays. You were there on Wednesdays. I know this is going to blow people's mind, but before cell phones, like those kind of things that you were investing in their life then. Like, I still hear them saying how grateful they are for you, grateful for your investment. So even though you couldn't give, quote unquote, full-time energy to those girls during those seasons, you still had an impact at the church and an impact in the ministry here at Antioch. So thank you for being willing to do that. That's because, again, sometimes you can get so focused on family that you don't do ministry either. And I think you did a really good job at balancing that, where you prioritize family, but you also prioritized serving the Lord. So thinking about our family, we didn't really talk much about that, but how long have we been married? We'll do a little. We go back to the Q&A. Maybe that was my question at the beginning that I was trying to think of. But how long have we been married? How many kids do we have?
I don't know. How long have we been married, Steve?
23 years. So there you go.
Yeah, good job.
I'm prepared for this podcast. You want to throw any other questions at me?
No. Okay, so 23 years we got married. And then 2 years after, we were blessed with twins, which was quite a surprise for us. We didn't really have twins in our family necessarily, and we didn't find out till we were 20 weeks along, which was a huge shock, but a sweet, sweet surprise for us. And then 4 years after the twins, we had our daughter, Macy. So Carson and Blake are our oldest. Now they're 21. Macy is 17 and a senior in high school. The boys are seniors in college. Macy's a senior in high school. And then Hudson just turned 15 and he is a freshman in high school. And they're my favorite people in the whole world. We get to go spend time with them later this week. And I don't think there's anything more that I could look forward to than to being with them. I love them so much. Yeah. So.
It's fun. Fun season of life.
It really is. They're funny, and they're a lot of fun to be around. And so they just bring so much joy. As every mom knows, when you get all your kids together after living separately for a while, it's just so sweet.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast today. This is part 1 of our interview with Ruth. So thank you for joining us today. Look for part 2 of our interview next month.